Hi guys, welcome to today's session. We're going to be starting a new piece today. So we completed the ink series last week, and I've got this this image that I'm working from, which I just got off Unsplash. So it's sort of going to be like an animal study, which you could do as well. So you can either use this reference, which I've linked to, or you can find your own as well, whichever you prefer. We're going to be working in watercolour, quite a washy watercolour this one, as a precursor to a more detailed built up piece. And I'm going to pretty much jump straight into it. So it's obviously going to be a fairly kind of brownish, kind of monochromatic sort of image that we're working on. So I've just got some very light brown, sort of a light brown wash here that I'm starting with. What I want to do is just really lightly start to feel out where maybe the placement is going to go. You can just probably faintly make out sort of form here, but it's I'm just going to using a little bit of a mixture of a sort of purplish color and a brown. And I really want to keep it pretty light, even lighter than that actually. Maybe a bit too heavy. I mean, you'll tend to find as things dry, they'll tend to lighten off a little bit as well, even if they start when you're working in watercolor, a bit like the inks if you watched that ink series recently. Which, if you're interested in water-based media, I definitely would recommend. Now, I'm hoping I'm going to be able to get a pretty good likeness in terms of copying the image. But there's always going to be like a little bit, if you're working kind of with absolutely no sketch underneath, you're obviously depending just on sort of how it loosely falls together, but it's not going to bother me too much if it's not absolutely perfect. And I'm kind of happy because it's a really washy color. It doesn't have to be any particular sort of hue that I'm working with. So that was a kind of purple color. I started with a more yellowish color. There's going to be quite a lot as the piece develops. So I'm kind of looking for where that little ear is there, and then above the ear we've got some extra little shadows. So I'm starting to kind of close in a little bit more on the more specific shapes on the outside of this. But I'm also trying to make sure that I do maintain places where they're going to, you know, remain quite bright, the tones, because it's sort of side-lit, so anywhere it's going to be super bright, I don't want to immediately go too dark into those areas. It's a little bit darker than what I ideally want for those shadows. I've just got a little bit of water to dilute it back. I mean, it's going to go a lot darker, so it's not the end of the world, but it's just, I'm staying quite similar to sort of how I draw if you've watched any of my drawing videos, staying fairly tentative just with this initial pass over. Knowing that, you know, if I do get anything off, it's not the end of the world, but I'm not going to be able to kind of pull it back if I'm just doing wash watercolor like I am at the moment, or like I'm going to go and do for this piece. So you can hopefully see it's starting to kind of emerge. But I've got a fairly nice sense now of the placement of those shadows, kind of very lightly washed in. I'm going to take a smaller brush, and I want to start being a little bit more specific with my shapes and slightly darker with my tones as well. You go a little bit less dark than that, but yeah, I'm just kind of now mapping over still too dark. I think I'm going to go even more water. I even blotted out a little bit actually. That went a bit too dark, I think. I mean, as I say, I think it'll will lighten off. Getting a slight sense of the, well, just slightly placing that. That eye a bit there. So I'm still sort of just generally feeling around with these tones. We're not going to go a lot more detail than what I'm doing at the moment, just in these sections today. But I'm going to move on a bit now because I've been kind of focused in on the one for a while now. And could do with trying to move around the rest of the piece. But it's definitely getting there. I'm not gonna, I'm just gonna kind of stick essentially with trying to outline these forms. I'm just going to work down the silhouette at the front as well. Won't put the background in today, we'll be doing that in the next session. Get a little bit more specific with the placement of this eye as well. Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, and I think that's a pretty good point to stop today. So get the idea, we've sort of started with a pretty washy drawing. You know, shapes aren't going to be identical to the original if you're working in this way, so not we're not like super accurately mapping stuff out, just kind of feeling our way around it and then kind of working from there. But yeah, you get the idea. So working with washy watercolors, obviously this is quite sort of earthy. And washes, so like it kind of shifts from pink to yellow and so on through mine. But yeah, just very thin paint. Starting with quite a big brush, I use kind of like a medium-sized brush to begin with, then swap the smaller one just to start getting some details in. And then next week we'll kind of go in and once it's sort of fully dried, start kind of pushing stuff, maybe put a bit of a darker background in to pop the front of the face out and so on. But yeah, that's it for now. As always, you can subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with this and, well, this series, but also anything else that pops up that we make. And you can click the link through to see the qualified courses or the qualifications that we offer at the school. Yeah, that's it for now, and I'll see you guys soon.